Hello again, Gills fans. Welcome back to the latest episode of Gills in the Blood TV. It's Thursday, which means it's match preview time. I apologise if my voice is slightly hoarse. I did go a little bit mad in the 98th minute at Plough Lane on Tuesday, where we definitely got away with one. Not the best performance from the Gills at Wimbledon. Down to 10 men, final 20 minutes. Wasn't very good. Last 30 seconds was bedlam, and we'll take the point and move on. But that is not the point of today's chat. As you can see, I am joined by, not a Morecambe fan, Morecambe director no less, James Wakefield, who's agreed to come and join me on Zoom for a chat and preview Saturday's game at the Priestfield. James, you may recognise if you decide to put up with my face an extra evening and night on the Third Tier podcast, because himself and his best friend Charlie were on there a few weeks ago. Both spoke very well about their football club. Unfortunately, Charlie is unavailable today, so it's just me and James. But James, thank you for coming on first and foremost. How are you? And you must be delighted with the start to the season, surely.
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, Matt. First of all, I am a director, but I'm fan first. I was a fan long before I was a director. Yeah, I'm good. It's been a solid start, and I think, especially given just the sheer amount of change we've had at the club, it's been better than a solid start. Results against Ipswich, Blackburn. You weren't expecting that coming into the season, not because we don't rate ourselves, but mainly because of the amount of change we've had in the last 5-6 weeks.
Yeah, because the first two that I've done, because I've changed it up this season and decided to do it more interactively, so we actually have a proper chat with a fan. Whereas I used to get people to send me pre-recorded stuff on WhatsApp, and it works a lot better. But I think, from your point of view, like you've said, and we know, speaking to you on the Third Tier, that it's not that you guys don't think you won't have a positive impact in League One, but to start the season, Ipswich, and then have your third league game be Rotherham, and a cup game against a Championship side in between, and you've only lost one of them. You've beaten Shrewsbury as well. But normally, for the first two games, I've done just sort of transfer talk with the Plymouth and the Lincoln supporters, but we're trying to keep this to 20 minutes. And I think we'd have probably needed about an hour or so just to get through all your transfers that you brought in. And some of them look really good, started really well. But we'll get on to key men in a little while. But yeah, just in more detail, tell me about Tuesday night, first defeat of the season after game 4.
I came out of Tuesday night feeling quite positive about it. It was the first defeat, but Rotherham are a settled side. They've come down from the Championship. The manager's been there forever. They've got fantastic players. They spent money, and they've again, I think it's too early in the season. There's not enough data yet to look into things like XG. There's going to be in a couple of games, but Rotherham are top for XG for and bottom for XG against. So they are, at the moment, in terms of form, the best team in the league. And they struggled to score more than one goal against us. And the one goal they scored was an absolute worldie with a bit of wind assistance from 25 yards. So, I came away thinking, if we can compete against these, then we're good. So it was good. And also, we had 4,000 fans in the Mazima on a Tuesday night, which for a league game is unheard of. So that was fantastic as well.
Yeah, because I remember you speaking about the season ticket progress when we had you on the Third Tier, and it was going really well, and that's phenomenal support and fair play to everyone behind the scenes at Morecambe that's making sure people are coming through the turnstiles, because that's what we want. And I've said it over and over again since we've been allowed back to grounds. It's much better. Like for me, Tuesday night, that reaction's nowhere near the same if I'm sat on my laptop watching it on a table, like I had to do all of last season, and to see people falling downstairs and jumping on each other, and it's great, isn't it? And being kissed by strangers and that type of thing. It's what it's all about, and we've missed it for far too long. And not forgetting your opening game as well. You were literally seconds away from seeing off Ipswich as well. So a really pleasing start. Blackburn in the cup made changes, but they're still a Championship side, and you've beaten them and got yourselves into the hat for the next round. So a really positive start for Morecambe. I've just had a look at Stephen Robinson and how he sets you up. I went through a couple of apps. 4-3-3 seems to be the favoured formation. He's not gone away from that in the first quartet of games this season. And looking at it, he's not made loads and loads of changes as well. I know Charlie and you said when we had you on the Third Tier that he just wants 2 players in each position. They come in and do a job. If one's injured, the other one comes in, takes over. There's no drop in quality. Everyone knows their role. And looking at the lineups for the first 4 games, including the cup game, because generally that's where you get a bit more rotation. But Your goalkeeper's played 3 of the first 4 games. Is that Jaquel Anderson?
Yeah.
You've had Sam Lovell, Anthony Connor have played 3 of the 4 games together at centre half. I'm going to try and say his name. I think he's affectionately known as Dave, but I'm going to go Tumani Diagoraga.
That's the one, teamed.
There we go. Has played 3 of the 4 games. The only one he didn't start was the Blackburn game. So I'm assuming that was just for a little bit of a rest, but he came on at half time. And up front, Cole Stockton, I think, has played pretty much every minute. He's definitely played every minute in the league, and he started all 4 games across the piece so far. So it's a solid system. It's one where everybody knows their roles. Is that fair to say? And it's one where Robinson knows that he needs to keep key players in key areas to keep you competitive at the very least.
Yeah, I think it's early days, and there's a couple of players that have had to play a lot because their alternate has been injured. We picked up 2 quite serious injuries early in the season, and then a couple of others that look serious have turned out not to be so. But there's still people out for the first few weeks of the season. So there's a few enforced sort of people stay in positions, and I think that he does change systems in games quite regularly if he needs to adapt. He did it at Blackburn. And that's why I think 2 came back on. But yeah, it's been pretty settled so far. What's nice for me is that we've got quite a lot of options out wide. So it almost doesn't matter who starts. And yes, he's started with the same couple of players for the last couple of games. But there's almost like an immediate change with fresh legs who can come on and continue with that running press. And that's looking like being a big part of the game this season. But yeah, it's pretty settled so far, but some of it being enforced by injury.
Of course, yeah, and we've had them as well, so we'll quickly dust over that. We've had, we lost 2.5 weeks of pre-season because of COVID.
Yeah.
We had Ryan Jackson came back against Plymouth, lasted an hour. That was his first appearance of the season. Felt his hamstring again, so he came off. We had no Ryan Jackson, no Alex McDonald, who's not featured yet. We had no Daniel Phillips, no John Akindi at Wimbledon. We had a centre-back who's available for transfer on the bench. We had a 17-year-old left-back on the bench, a 19-year-old right-back on the bench who ironically then come on, and it was his volley that led to the equaliser, which was great for him and great for us. And fingers crossed he gets more minutes because he does look very good. But yeah, we're decimated. We've got a tiny squad, and we know everyone has this thing about Steve Evans, and he talks about we've got the tiniest budget in the division, and I know a lot of it's mind games and probably just encouraging Mr. Scally to open the checkbook a little bit more, but we are down to the bare bones at the moment. We've had four right backs in 4 games so far.
Yeah.
One of them's a centre back, one of them's a teenager. Robbie McKenzie, who started Tuesday night, that was his first 60 minutes of the season. He missed all of pre-season because of an ankle knock. And then to top it off, David Tatonda got sent off. So now we've only got a 17-year-old left back available for the weekend, unless anything happens in the next 24 hours. But what do you do? Like our manager said, you can roll around and moan and whine, or you can dig in, roll your sleeves up and crack on and try and prove people wrong. So injuries playing a part, I think, across the board. Everyone's probably had their issues with that. That's part of the game. I think everyone's still having issues, minor or major, with COVID, unfortunately, because more stuff's been opened up. So then more players are going out, and they're more prone to walking into someone who has got it, unfortunately. But the main thing for me is that football is back properly, and we're enjoying it in stadiums. Well, you're probably enjoying it slightly more than I am at the moment. But key man, obviously, for you has to be Cole Stockton. He started absolutely brilliantly so far. He's played 90 minutes across all 3 games in the league. I had a look at his stats. He's averaging 2.7 shots per game. So that's, say, 3. So you're looking at 9 shots a game. He's got 3 goals in the league already. So he's basically scoring with 1 every 3 shots, which is a great return. So if he keeps that up over the full season, he's going to have a phenomenal campaign and probably be enough to keep you very comfortable, I'd imagine. I know Charlie was very bullish when we asked for him for his prediction a few weeks ago and said 12th, and you said safe and didn't really put a number on it. But I think coupled with the start and how people have seen you play as well now, I think because Morecambe coming in were a bit of an unknown. You've never been here before. But I don't think it's taken long for fans of opposition teams to cotton on to the fact that you're going to be very competitive at the very least at this level. But just tell us about Cole Stockton, the player and the man as well, because it's a phenomenal start at this level.
So Cole, I think, has been a very popular player at Morecambe for a long time. He's a good lad. He works his socks off. He's physical, he's honest. He doesn't go down very easily, and he bullies opposition defenders as well. So as a fan, you love to watch a big centre forward. Not the tallest. He's more the work he does with his body than with his head that makes him that effective target man. But his close control is just unreal. Actually, he doesn't get the credit for his technique that we didn't previously get the credit for his technique that he deserved. And basically, in this calendar year, he has just turned into a goal scorer as well as a fantastic target man. So I think there was a goal. It was one really good goal against Solihull in the FA Cup at the end of 2020. And almost from that point onwards, he's just had this confidence in front of goal that he hadn't previously had in his career. So this calendar year, he's one of the form players in the whole of English football as a striker. And he just carried on where he left off from last year. There's games where he'll get marked out. There's games where people will double up on him, and he never complains. He just works and works. But I think he's probably a bit of a manager's dream because he goes on the pitch, does exactly what he's asked to do, and then can come up with a worldie here and there. He did it against Ipswich.
That was what I was going to say. One of the goals against Ipswich was phenomenal technique. The quick feet to get himself away, and then the smart finish as well is everything that you want.
Once he's got the ball within his kind of sphere, within his control, he's almost impossible to take off it, no matter how many players are on him. And so he's hugely popular. We need to make sure we don't rely on him too much. We've got to get some help in because we've got lots of forwards. At the moment, because of injuries, we're lacking an alternative to Cole in that hold-up role. So I think that's something that might change in the next few days. But ultimately, he's a fantastic player, and we're very pleased that he signed up for another 2 years at Morecambe because everybody needs a good striker, and Cole is a good striker.
Just heard you. Sorry, I just heard you say you've got lots of strikers. Just showing off. I mean, we've got 2.
No. We had 3, and now we've got 1.
3. I'll take 3. I'd love 3. We've got Dane Oliver, I think, who was at your place a few years ago, wasn't he, as well? And he sounds similar to Stockton in terms of he'll play anywhere for you, run for a brick wall. He'll work hard in and out of possession. He knows where the back of the net is. He probably doesn't get as much credit as he deserves. And he's probably had that sort of season last season that Cole had after that goal in the cup where something flicks and he just goes on one of them runs. And we were really pleased with him last season where he ended up with 20 goals in all competitions and 17 in the league. But he needs help. We desperately need help. Like I say, John Akindi is the only other senior striker available at the moment, but he's a similar type. We've got a lad called Gerald Sitole, but again, he's only 18 and it's his first season as a pro. You can't be relying on a kid to take the workload off of someone who got 20 last season. And my fear at the moment is with John Akindi injured and not getting anyone else in, is that Verdane's going to be flogged to death, and then we might be struggling a little bit. If, again, like you said, with Stockton, you need to share the goals around. You need your midfielders to chip in with 5 or 6 each, at least a couple of them, and then if your defenders can pinch a few here and there, then it takes the burden off of the star man, so to speak. But again, similarly, I'd imagine that there's probably not that sort of star man ethos within Morecambe at all. Everybody's there, everybody's equal, everybody does the same job, and it's it's a lose together, draw together, win together type thing. And I think you have to be like that at this level when you're a club of a certain size. And I revert back to the third tier when you mentioned you was looking at Gillingham's figures in terms of attendances and stuff like that when you came into League One. And I don't think there's a load of this sort of differences between the two sides. I think throughout the season we'll ruffle a few feathers. We'll take points off of teams that we probably shouldn't take points off of, and then there'll be times when we'll lose against sides that you probably fancy us to beat. But then that's the beauty of being a League One and a League Two football fan, and it's not all champagne and comfy chairs and directors' boxes like it is in the Premier League. And for that reason, I love it a lot more. But let's get on to team news now. Then I'll let you do yours first. I know you've mentioned there is a couple of injuries that have been forced upon you in the opening few weeks of the season, but if you're in Stephen Robinson's shoes, I'd imagine the goalie starts, Cole Stockton starts. We spoke on Twitter a few days ago and you laughed and said it'd be Cole Stockton plus 10 more. But looking at your lineups for the first few games, I'd imagine the likes of Toombs, I'm going to go easy this time, will start, and the keeper will start, the 2 centre-backs. But what do you think the 11 will be that Stephen Robinson will go for Saturday come 3 o'clock?
All right, so I've got to get a disclaimer in and say this is my thoughts as a fan. I don't know what Stephen's going to do.
That's fine, no problem.
I've got no bias against or for any particular players. I love them all, but I think the likely starting lineup will be Yockel, the iceberg in goal. I think Greg Lee will come back in at left back. He was rested the other night, but it wasn't because of an injury. It's because he had an injury 6 months ago. And you know, I think he'll come back in. I think then O'Connor and Big Sam will be in the middle, with Ryan Cooney on the right. Cooney started the season fantastically, which is great. It'll be, as you say, 3 in the midfield. I think they'll probably stick with Toombs and McLaughlin. There's a nice balance there. Both of them can do defensive and offensive work. And then it's a toss-up between McCalman and Phillips for me. And with a game against Preston in the League Cup on Tuesday night, I genuinely don't know which he'll go for. I'll stick my neck out and say he might start with Phillips in this one. I think
so you think it'd be one Saturday and then the other one Tuesday?
Possibly, and I also think that, you know, you might just, Phillips is a very creative player. He tries passes that other players might not. We might give the ball away a bit because of it, but you know, he creates chances, and I think against you lot, Stephen might want that in the team. And then front three, I think he'll stick with Cole, Big Arthur, and Josh McPake. But as I say, those 2 white players, McPake and Arthur, they're interchangeable for Wes and Shayon Harrison in behind them. So yeah, I'll go Yockel, Lee, O'Connor, Sam, Cooney, Toombs, Phillips, McLaughlin, McPake, Big Cole, and Arthur.
Fair enough. We'll have a look. Have you got the Fan Hub app? I'll try and pick ours, but genuinely I don't have a clue at the moment, unfortunately, because of all the injuries. I think we've played 3 or 4 different formations. Like I say, we've had 4 right backs. We're going to have a different left back unless Steve Evans throws a mid-curve ball in and changes the system, but I can't see him going away from 4-2-3-1 or a 4-4-2 diamond. Personally, I'd like us to play 4-2-3-1 to get some natural width to play to Big V's strengths, because that's how he scored a lot of his goals last season. We had Jordan Graham and another on the other side. We got up the pitch quickly, and then we got balls into the box, and that's where Big V does his best work, because he's unbelievable in the air. I mean, I follow a couple of podcasts on Twitter like D3, D4, and they're always tweeting, you know, most aerial battles won, and I think Verdane was about 300 clear of everyone else last season, which was absolutely staggering. And he was the same Tuesday night, but unfortunately, I think because we're playing people that are not fit at the moment, because we've got so few available, that we just didn't get anyone within 10 yards of him all the time. So. And then the flick on becomes null and void, unfortunately. But if we can get a couple back from those that were missing Tuesday, I'd like us to see us go. Jamie coming in goal, back 4 fullbacks is like picking the lottery numbers. I'll go with Harvey Lintop, the youngster at right back. I think he deserves a start. Max Amar and Jack Tucker will be the centre backs. They've been very good so far. And then it's probably a toss up between Robbie McKenzie or Reece Bennett to play left back, but one's a centre half and one's a right back / centre midfielder, so both of them are going to be like a fish out of water, unfortunately, whoever goes there. Stuart O'Keefe, Daniel Phillips in the middle of the park, sitting in front and protecting, and then the 3 in front of them hopefully will be Danny Lloyd, Carl Dempsey, the captain, and Mustafa Carriol. It'd be Verdane Oliver up front, even if John Akindi's available. He's only going to be on the bench. Hopefully be Chapman, Reece Bennett, Bailey Akehurst, the 17-year-old, Ollie Lee, Ben Reeves, John Akindi, and Gerald Sitto. That is my prediction. So chances are it'll be completely different to that. Right. It's been really good. I really appreciate you coming on, James. I know you're busy today and you are working from home, but we have to ask one burning question before I let you go, and that is score prediction for Saturday.
1-0 to Morecambe.
1-0 to Morecambe. Fair enough. Well, I was on the third tier on Monday and we had to go through 2 sets of results, and I said 1-1 at Wimbledon. So I'm going to have to, and I got that right. I said 1-1 at home to Lincoln a couple of weeks ago, and I was right. I think the only one I've got wrong so far was the Plymouth one. Probably going with heart overhead a little bit. I'm going to say Gills to pick up their first win of the season, but it'd be very nervy, very uncomfortable. 2-1. Stockton to score for Morecambe, and Verdane Oliver and Carl Dempsey to score for Gillingham. Right. Appreciate you coming on. Like I've said, it's really been good fun to speak to you again, James. You've been brilliant, like I say, with us on the third tier and also today. Hopefully, should try and see you and Charlie before the game on Saturday.
Yeah, it'd be lovely to see you for a pint. We'll find you. We'll be there quite early, so we'll exchange numbers and grab a pint on the day if we can.
Yeah, fingers crossed. I know nothing's open, unfortunately, at Gills at the moment. Well, apart from the posh bit where you go, I'd imagine.
We'll see. We'll see if we can sort somewhere anyway. But yeah,
okay,
yeah.
maybe I'll try and get there a bit
anyway.
earlier. That'd be great. Right, Gills fans, you know where we are. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on Twitter, and we're on YouTube. Do go and check out James at James T Wakefield on Twitter. It's brilliant to see him and Charlie talk so openly and freely about their football club. Lots of transparency, lots of transfer news. If a Morecambe fan's been watching, there was a little snippet a little bit earlier. If you was listening hard enough, there might be something happening in the next few days. They do like breaking transfer news when they talk to me. But as always, thanks for watching. We'll be back Saturday for a match day live in the ground. But until next time, up the Gills.